Good morning. Good morning. So I want to introduce Jackie Koven, and Jackie's going to do To the Moon, the cyber kill chain. Thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world watching this today. I'm Jackie Burns-Koven, and I'm so delighted to be here at the DFIR Summit. I fully recognize that blockchain is a bit of an oddball in this otherwise terrific lineup, but I'm pretty used to it by now. Blockchain is transcending a number of different industries, and at Chainalysis, I'm engaging with banks, cybersecurity teams, and law enforcement. All folks who entered their professions never dreaming that cryptocurrency would ever be a part of it, right? And now it's playing an integral role. But as karma would have it, I never expected ransomware to be a part of my job description. And now I can say that I've been investigating ransomware on the blockchain for the better part of 3 years now at Chainalysis. So if you fall into that camp of you're unsure or curious of how all this crypto stuff applies to you in your work, welcome. I aim to share with you what I'm seeing in the field and hope to introduce you to a new arrow in your quiver, perhaps. And if you know a bit about cryptocurrency, maybe you've encountered it in your role, I hope to help you see how you can enrich that information into valuable intelligence and evidence. So let's see if I can control these slides. Excuse me, a little hiccup. Great. We'll go into some examples today of how blockchain forensics has been a complementary lens for technical analysis. We'll walk through some case studies on what cryptocurrency data can contribute towards objectives of prevention, attribution, and response, and even asset recovery. But in order to leverage cryptocurrency in DFIR investigations, we must first come to grips with some core concepts and dispel some commonly held misconceptions. So we're going to kick it off with a quick myth-busting exercise. Okay, our first myth. Only criminals use cryptocurrency. Have you heard this one before? Have you maybe tweeted it out yourself? It's okay. It's easy to believe this myth when you're inundated with headlines about things like ransomware, but it is false. We calculated actually in 2020 in our crypto crime report that of the $3 trillion of cryptocurrency activity last year, less than 1% of that was illicit. So while we're going to be focused on the darker uses of cryptocurrency today, it's important to keep in mind there are plenty of good guys in the ecosystem who can actually be an asset for you following an incident. And we'll talk more about that later. So for our second myth, you may have also heard that cryptocurrency is anonymous. I have even heard a former head of CISA, who I quite admire, repeat this myth when interviewed on a talk show earlier this year, but it's simply not true. Crypto is rather pseudonymous, and blockchain forensics tools enable you to follow the money and overlay enrichment about where that money went and serves as trusted evidence in court. Okay, last one. Cryptocurrency doesn't touch my work. Okay, so this is a trickier one, and it's one I told myself for a long time, actually. I was investigating financially motivated threat actors, and yet I wasn't looking or considering any financial indicators or artifacts. It sounds kind of crazy when I say it out loud, right? But historically, we never had access to financial information. In the traditional fiat world, there are walls between financial institutions, different payment rails, impossible to piece together without a subpoena, several weeks and months of red tape. But with cryptocurrency, those walls all but evaporate. And I don't pretend to know your job better than you do, but I hope that if you don't see a direct connection to crypto today, that you at least see the potential for it to enter your circles in the future. So let's actually unpack some of these myths. So we've established illicit activity comprises just a small fraction of the overall crypto economy. So what do people do with crypto? Well, some view cryptocurrency as an asset class and store value. So many crypto hodlers, as they're called, will hold their cryptocurrency expecting the price to climb to the moon. See, InfoSec community, you're not the only ones with quirky lore and naming conventions. Speaking of, you can actually rickroll somebody's cryptocurrency wallet. That's probably all I needed to say to convince some of you out there not to sleep on crypto, but I'm getting off track, so come find me in the Slack hallway if you want to hear more on that story. So back to the point, if we've seen this massive influx of financial institutions and e-commerce platforms embracing crypto. It's faster, it's cheaper for cross-border payments, and you can increasingly buy goods and services with cryptocurrency. Yeah, even a Tesla at one point this year, right? So, and there's also mining of cryptocurrency to generate the crypto. So, of course, wherever there's money to be made, these activities can and will be co-opted for nefarious purposes. Cryptocurrency can be used as a mean for money laundering and buying and selling a number of illicit goods. But how do we know that? We know that because cryptocurrency is pseudonymous, remember, and we're able to map cryptocurrency addresses to real-world entities using blockchain analysis. So let's take Bitcoin as an example. A Bitcoin address contains between 26 and 35 alphanumeric characters that provide a unique identifier. And any transaction is broadcast, like you see here, on a publicly available ledger. You see the addresses on the left-hand side, sending to those two addresses on the right. However, you can see there's no identifying information as to who is sending Bitcoin and to who, right? Chainalysis actually translates these seemingly nonsensical strings into the parties involved in the transaction. Think of it as creating the phone book of hundreds of millions of cryptocurrency addresses. We use advanced analytics, proprietary heuristics, even ground truth research. We've mapped these entities to translate this transaction you see on the left into the transfer between a merchant service provider called Coinify to a cryptocurrency exchange called Bitstamp. So taking the same methodology, you can also track that threat actor selling stolen credit cards or auctioning off exfiltrated data or paying an access broker. Now, cyber threat actors are getting more creative and finding new ways to steal it, scam it, create it, extort it. Just to name a few emerging areas, we have crypto skimming. This is actually a newer term for me personally. Crypto jacking, also known as crypto mining. You have the wholesale hacking of exchanges and draining of their accounts, and SIM swapping on individuals. And of course, there's the elephant in the room and destroyer of 4th of July weekends, ransomware. And because all of you are in incident response, I don't need to tell you that ransomware is on the rise. And I mean that in every respect. First of all, overall revenue from ransom payments has increased dramatically. And our figures literally change by the day. And while we know our totals comprise a lower bound estimate of the overall ransomware amount, we're on pace to beat last year already in terms of ransoms paid out. And last year was a record year. Further to that, the average ransom payment demanded is increasing. We've been able to see through blockchain forensics also the number of unique actors participating in the ecosystem has increased. So we're able to actually see threat actors previously involved in other types of cyber-enabled crime, adapting their craft toward the booming business of ransomware. But there is a silver lining in that we are seeing an increased turnover in terms of ransomware group closures and takedowns. And here's really where we get into the functionality of blockchain forensics for DFIR and really why this matters. What I'm showing you here is just a handful of examples we can publicly share about how investigators have leveraged cryptocurrency as an artifact in investigations to lead to attribution and disruption of a broad spectrum of threat actors. Highlighted in orange, we see the charging of a Russian national for operating a dirty cryptocurrency exchange called BTCE that was used for laundering criminal proceeds of syndicates around the world, including multiple ransomware campaigns. And then further to the right, we have the identification of cryptocurrency wallets and accomplices of the Lazarus group involved in the Sony hack, the creation of WannaCry ransomware, and attacks on banks. And further to the right, there was also a cryptocurrency nexus to the Russian influence operations detailed this past April, including affiliations with ransomware groups. And as for Netwalker, we're going to talk about this in more detail in a moment. So this is all to say that if you take away just one thing from this session, I want it to be that crypto underpins all kinds of cyber intrusion beyond those crypto-centric crimes that we've just reviewed. And that is because attacks are not monolithic. They are complex and blended as threat actors host a variety of professional tools and services at their disposal in the underground economy. They can buy exploits, C2 domains, phishing kits, access, all of these things being bought and sold with cryptocurrency. The availability of these components has contributed to a rapid professionalization of the underground, led to attack sophistication. It has also caused complexities with attribution, where threat actors may be leveraging the same malware as a service independent of the other, but they're not related. And this is where blockchain analysis can, in some cases, augment other technical needs. We can see precisely what's in these threat actors' shopping carts through blockchain forensics, which enables us to personify that data, map out networks like this rendering here. And you'll also start to see centers of gravity in the ecosystem start to emerge and connections form for strategic and tactical aims. To put this in a framework most of you are familiar with, we've overlaid a threat actor's shopping cart onto the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. Cryptocurrency can propel a campaign through each one of these steps in the kill chain. But what I really want you to take away from this is that having just one of the transactions from any one of these stages for a particular threat actor can actually reveal all or most of the previous or subsequent purchases in the campaign. And then following a successful attack, we can actually see the threat actor reinvesting those profits, scammed, stolen, extorted, or otherwise, into their next campaign. And we can see additional purchases of access, brute forcing tools, botnets, and the like. And the reason I get so excited about this is that a single cryptocurrency address from an incident or leading up to an incident can help us identify the attack supply chain and supplement, in some cases, technical needs. We can also alert for connections with sanctions or alert you in cases where stolen funds or extorted funds move. Cryptocurrency data also has join keys with existing datasets and platforms. For those of you dealing with the legal ramifications of incidents, blockchain data is used in court, and we have lots of proof points to that effect, which is why a growing number of global law enforcement are leveraging it as well. So for DFIR professionals coordinating with law enforcement or a regulatory body or even a client, blockchain data platform serves as a common operating picture and common language between public and private sector. So if you're in a time-sensitive, high-dollar incident, what better way to keep all eyes on the ball and have that coordinated action on your side for asset recovery or case building? So I want to turn it over to some real-world examples to actually show you this in practice. So I'll only touch upon prevention briefly. Whether your team is focused on a specific set of threat actors or a type of attack or malware, the idea is that you understand changes in TTPs or indicators of attack prep at the point of sale versus the point of attack. And in some cases, you might learn off of the attack of someone else where there's evidence on the blockchain to glean. So you can monitor that threat actor shopping cart, or maybe you didn't pay that ransom, but you can unravel that ransomware network from someone else who did. And this helps inform preventative measures. So you've heard me say that with a single cryptocurrency address, belonging to a threat actor, we can unravel the components of an attack, soup to nuts. So on the left-hand side, you can see domains, email, file hosting purchases. And you'll note in this case where threat actors are co-opting ClearNet legitimate services that we've anonymized here. But they also leverage the dark web too. So on the right-hand side, you can see a malware-as-a-service provider making purchases off the dark web, including from SSN DOB. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's an invite-only forum specializing in social security numbers and PII. But at the bottom right, you can actually see the use of a cryptocurrency exchange. These are ClearNet services, mostly regulated, that play an important role in incident response. Exchanges are businesses used to convert crypto to cash or your cash to crypto. When you need crypto to buy stuff on the criminal underground, you need an exchange. If you need to convert your spoils from a cryptocurrency heist or extortion to fiat currency, you need an exchange. So cyber criminals eventually need to move their crypto to fiat. Sure, we've established you can purchase an increasing amount of goods with cryptocurrency today, just not everything. As we like to say at Chainalysis, even bad guys gotta pay rent. Or, okay, if you're the head of Evil Core, you gotta pay for your custom Lamborghini or whatever. But at some point, you're going to wanna convert that pilfered, extorted, scammed crypto to cash. And if we look at this chart on the right, this is showing you where ransomware wallets as a whole send their funds. And we see that overwhelmingly, they send their funds to exchanges in orange. And this is followed by mixing services in gray. And these exchanges, for the most part, are regulated. They require KYC or know your customer information on their individual customers. Exchanges also use the same enriched blockchain data platform as cyber teams and law enforcement we work with. And so if you see funds wind up at a particular exchange, they can be helpful in identifying the attacker or an accomplice, even in asset recovery, and are overall an incredible force multiplier following an incident, to be sure. We can also learn a lot about an attacker just by examining the exchange that he cashes out at himself. And cashing out, I mean converting that crypto to cash. This attribution piece becomes really important for legal and regulatory dilemmas that can arise from an incident, especially when it comes to sanctions. The incident response firm Profero actually had an interesting application of blockchain forensics last year, where they're investigating a new, previously unseen in the wild variant going by the name paid-to-key ransomware. And it was targeting primarily Israeli victims. Here you can actually see where one victim sourced their Bitcoin, and it was from an Israeli exchange noted by the .il. Then they paid the ransom to the pay-to-key wallet. Then pay-to-key converged several ransom payments from several victims before transferring to an intermediary wallet, where they then cashed out, converted that Bitcoin to cash at an exchange. But it wasn't just any exchange. It was xcoino.com, which is an Iranian exchange. And so the blockchain forensics in this case provided that confirmatory intelligence of what had only been speculated at that time, that these actors were based out of Iran. There's also a scenario we encounter where two variants may technically look a lot alike, encrypt the same way, leverage the same loader, maybe exhibit similar ransom note styles, but there are some differences. So are they related, or do they use the same commodity malware? If they are related, then how? Is it the same developer? Is it a splinter group? That's why I found this case study from Recorded Future on bulletproof hosting providers so interesting. And it's a really great report if you haven't checked it out. And they had some data points about Dharma and Phobos ransomware potential overlap. But then when they investigated through blockchain forensics, they found additional evidence. both variants use the same bulletproof hosting providers. But not only that, they cash out at the same exchange. But not only the same exchange, the same deposit address of the exchange. This is interesting. Recalling what we talked about earlier, that exchanges have KYC, those know your customer requirements on specific accounts. So hold tight, I have one more example and we can unpack that concept a little bit. Okay, if you look on the left, this is another example of two totally distinct, distinctly named ransomware variants, likely trying to obfuscate an overt connection between the two. Maybe one strain had been outed as a potential sanctions risk or something, but you see them using not only the same exchange, but the same deposit address at the exchange again. And so I want you to think of a deposit address at an exchange like a bank account. So this could mean two threat actors are sharing the same banking account. That's pretty unlikely. Look, I don't care how well you get along with your coworkers. You might wear matching Hawaiian shirts on Fridays, which is what they do on my team. But on payday, you don't want your paycheck going to the same account. You don't want to commingle your funds with your coworkers. Sorry, guys. So this case is actually showing the developer of those two distinctly named strains is one and the same. This technique can also be used to identify affiliates, by the way, playing Goldilocks across different variants. But this workflow is becoming increasingly important amid the tremendous volatility in the space right now in terms of ransomware groups dropping and swapping names because they're pressured, because reputational damage, or because they've been outed as a sanctions risk. So blockchain and analytics in this case can help you actually understand who is behind what and whether it was just a rebranding of an earlier variant that we've seen before. On the right-hand side is an example of how we could actually confirm what other researchers had surmised via technical analysis, that Ryuk and Conti are cut from the same cloth. Now, just as we're seeing variants obfuscate connections to other variants, we're also starting to see opportunistic threat actors trying to capitalize off of the notoriety of some other ransomware gangs by adopting their names and trying to impersonate them. So Ryuk is just such an example. So Security Joe's identified a Ryuk builder impersonator last month, but when you plot that Ryuk impersonator's address out, it does not match the real Ryuk's financial signatures at all. So that also confirmed that. So we've talked about TTPs, legal and regulatory risk, attribution, threat resolution. Now I want to touch upon disruption and even asset recovery. So Netwalker ransomware. This was a ransomware as a service. So we're introducing affiliates to the complexity of this network. We've tracked at least $78 million in ransom payments to Netwalker, over 300 victims in at least 27 countries. And those victims include healthcare clinics and healthcare facilities. It's pretty awful. Fast forward to January of this year, authorities took down the dark websites run by the Netwalker gang and arrested a Canadian national responsible for around 90 attacks worth $14 million in Bitcoin at the time of receipt. Furthermore, $500,000 was actually seized from the arrested affiliate, and blockchain forensics was used in support of this investigation. And you can see from the graph on the right how blockchain analysis enables you to disambiguate the ransomware network, tease out roles, accomplices, commission support, underlying supply chain of the attack, their wallets, their spending habits, and extract that identifying information. So pretty cool. You love to see it. I did want to end on an opportunistic, an optimistic note. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground, so I do want to leave you with some resources. And just remember, blockchain forensics is new for just about everyone, so please don't be intimidated. If you've seen or heard phrases that you're not familiar with, We have a lot of good resources on our website, chainalysis.com. We have free reports from general overviews of the cyber-enabled criminal landscape to deep dives into specific aspects of crime or laundering. We have webinars, really good training offerings from the very basics. What is Bitcoin? How does mining work? To even more advanced concepts and investigative techniques. We also post threat intel reports on specific events and threat actors, like North Korea's use of cryptocurrency to purchase attack infrastructure, for instance. I can post some of these in the Slack hallway if you're interested. But thanks so much for your attention. Thanks again to the SANS Institute for this fantastic summit. And please find me in the Slack hallway or on Twitter or email if you want to chat further. So thank you again.
Jackie, that was fantastic. Does anyone have any specific questions? I'm down at the bottom of the chat now because there were a lot.
The question about, okay, have you seen, anonymity currencies like Dash and Zcash? Great question, all of them. So I'm not trying to ignore anybody. I do want to get to you. I'll do a quick response on the privacy coins or anonymity coins. So there are certain cryptocurrencies, Dash, Zcash, Monero, that do have privacy enhancing capabilities, but we're not really seeing them take hold in the criminal underground. And there's a couple reasons for that. Liquidity being one of them. A lot of exchanges have dropped support of these cryptocurrencies altogether. So they're really hard. So if you're a ransomware actor, they're very hard to coach a victim through being able to obtain Monero, and you can't get it in large quantities or quickly. And the other point is Bitcoin is doing really well financially. And a lot of, if you're a ransomware as a service provider, you want your affiliates to be able to use the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, because that's the preferred currency. So we are seeing overwhelmingly that Bitcoin is still king as far as criminal activity goes. And I do want to get to these other questions in the chat. So thank you so much for submitting them, and thank you for your time.
Jackie, question for you really quickly. Do you have a training roadmap that you recommend? A lot of people are asking about that.
Oh, that's great. I can provide some materials in the chat. I would start with the crypto basics. I know I spent a lot of time at the beginning kind of front loading how Bitcoin operates, how the blockchain works. And I think that's really important to understanding how you can leverage it and be an informed consumer of blockchain analytic data and be able to leverage it yourself. So I'd start with the crypto essentials, the crypto 101, then move into a mapping tool like Reactor, where you can actually map it out yourself. And a lot of folks in cyber find it very intuitive. It's node network analysis, like you're very familiar with in other tools, and integrates with other tools that you're familiar with too. So I would kind of work through that. And then as like a third segment, I would go to that advanced investigative course, because that's really going to build on what you've learned throughout.
Excellent, thank you.